The moment that changed everything was not some dramatic revelation or gut-wrenching confrontation. No, it was as mundane as a dropped receipt on the kitchen counter. A small, insignificant scrap of paper that would have gone unnoticed if I had not been cleaning up after Lisa's latest whirlwind morning. She left the house in a rush, as usual, her perfume lingering in the air. A scent I used to love but now found suffocating. The receipt was from a restaurant I'd never heard of, dated 2 nights ago. I stared at it, my mind working overtime to reconcile the information. Lisa had told me she was out with her sister that evening. But unless her sister's name was now David, and she ordered 2 glasses of red wine, someone was lying. I did not react right away. I'm not the type to jump to conclusions. Instead, I folded the receipt, slid it into my pocket, and went about my day. But the unease settled in my chest like a stone. Lisa and I were not perfect, who is? But we were not the type to let things fester. Or at least that's what I'd always believed. She'd been distant lately. Sure. But life was busy. Work was demanding for both of us. And we'd fallen into a rhythm that felt more like parallel lines than a partnership. But this was something different. That evening, Lisa came home late. She breezed through the door with the kind of energy that did not match the long, tiring day she claimed to have had. Her hair was perfect, her lipstick fresh, and her smile, that same smile that once made me weak in the knees, felt like a mask. "Hey!" she chirped, dumping her bag on the couch. "How was your day?" "Fine," I replied, trying to sound casual. My hand brushed against the folded receipt in my pocket. "Dinner's on the stove," I added, watching her closely. Lisa hesitated. She always ate whatever I cooked. But tonight she waved it off with a dismissive, "I'm not that hungry. Ate a big lunch at work." I nodded, biting my tongue. Later that night, as she scrolled through her phone in bed, I could not resist. "Lisa," I said, keeping my voice steady, "where do you say you went the other night?" She barely looked up. "Out with my sister." "Why?" I took a deep breath, pulling the receipt from my pocket and placing it on the nightstand between us. Her eyes flickered to it. And for a split second, I saw something I had not seen in years. Fear. "What's this?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Lisa's smile returned. But this time, it was strained. "Oh, that? It's nothing. I met up with a colleague for lunch. Business stuff. I must have forgotten it in my bag." Her words were smooth, practiced even. But her eyes, those eyes that used to be my safe place, were darting around like a trapped animal. "At 9 p.m. Oppressed, her jaw tightened. "What are you trying to say, Ryan?" The room went still. My heart pounded in my ears. But I did not back down. "I'm saying it does not add up, Lisa. None of it does." And then, for the first time in our years together, Lisa snapped. "You're being ridiculous." She spat, standing up so fast the bed shook. "Do you really think I'm cheating on you?" God. Ryan, this paranoia is pathetic. I stayed silent, watching her pace the room. She was cornered, and we both knew it. "You want to know the truth?" she hissed, her voice dripping with venom. "Fine. I was not with my sister. I went out for a drink. Alone. Because I needed a break. From you." Her words hit like a slap. "A break from me?" I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, you," she shouted. "You suffocating, Ryan. Always hovering, always questioning. Maybe if you looked in the mirror, you'd see why I need some space." I did not recognize the woman standing in front of me. This was not the Lisa I married. This was someone colder, sharper, and crueler. But the worst part was not her words. It was the way she said them with such conviction, like she truly believed I was the problem. Like I was the one tearing us apart. In that moment, I realized something terrifying. Lisa was not just lying to me. She was lying to herself. The house was quiet when Lisa left that morning. But the silence was not peaceful. It was heavy. I sat at the edge of the bed, staring at the empty doorway she'd walked through just minutes ago. Her cheerful goodbye had been too perfect, too practiced, as if rehearsed to throw me off the scent. The receipt from the night before burned in my pocket like a hot coal. My gut told me that something bigger was happening. Something I could not ignore any longer. And for the first time in our years together, I did not just want answers. I needed them. After she left, I paced the kitchen, running through the facts I already had. The late nights, the sketchy excuses, the growing wall of distance between us. It all pointed to one conclusion. But I was not about to act on a hunch. No, this time I'd find proof. I started with her car. Lisa had taken mine this morning. Claiming hers was acting up. The timing was suspicious. But it worked in my favor. I grabbed her spare keys and headed for the garage. My pulse hammering in my ears. The car was clean, almost too clean. No receipts, no stray papers, not even an old gum wrapper felt staged, like she'd wiped it down for this exact reason. But as I reached into the glove compartment, my hand brushed against something tucked behind the manual. It was a small folded-up note. The handwriting was not hers. And the words were written with a hurried, almost desperate scrawl. Friday 8 p.m. same place. A chill ran down my spine. I did not recognize the handwriting. But the implications hit me like a freight train. Same place. Same as what? I unfolded the note again, scrutinizing every curve of the letters. But it gave me nothing. Just those 5 words taunting me. By the time Lisa came home that evening, I was wound tighter than a spring. I'd spent hours obsessing over the note, turning it over in my mind, trying to figure out what it meant. But Lisa did not seem the least bit concerned. She breezed in like it was just another ordinary day, carrying takeout bags and smiling like she had not a care in the world. Brought dinner, she called, setting the bags on the counter. I stayed seated at the dining table, my hands clasped tightly together. How was your day? I asked, trying to keep my tone light. She shrugged, dizzy, ran around all morning. Then lunch with Megan. Another lie. I watched her unpack the food. The scent of fried rice and sesame chicken filling the room. She was calm, collected, the perfect image of a loving wife. But I knew better now. Lisa, I said, my voice steady but low. Do you have anything you want to tell me? She froze for a split second before turning to me with a confused smile. What are you talking about? I pulled the note from my pocket and slid it across the table. This found it in your car. Her face changed in an instant. For the briefest moment, there was a flicker of shock quickly replaced by a forced laugh. That, she said, shaking her head. Oh my God! Ryan, you're seriously going through my car now? That's low even for you. Do not deflect. I snapped. What does it mean? Who wrote it? Her eyes narrowed. And I could see the gears turning in her head as she scrambled for an explanation. It's nothing, she said finally. Probably just something I jotted down for work and forgot about. Honestly, Ryan, you're acting paranoid. Stop lying to me, Lisa. I slammed my hand on the table, making her jump. I'm not stupid. You've been sneaking around, making up stories. Just tell me the truth. Her face twisted with anger. The truth? You want the truth? She hissed. Fine. I've been under a lot of pressure lately. Okay, work, family, you? I needed space. So yeah, I've been going out on my own. But it's not what you think. Then explain it. I challenged, my voice ice cold. Because from where I'm standing, it sure as hell looks like you've got something to hide. She stared at me, her chest heaving. And for a moment, I thought she might actually confess. But then she scoffed, grabbing her bag from the counter. I do not have to explain myself to you, she said, her voice sharp. If you see and not trust me, that's your problem. Not mine. And just like that, she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I sat there for what felt like hours. My mind racing, my heart pounding. Lisa was lying. Of that I was certain. But what terrified me most was not just the lies. It was the realization that she no longer cared if I caught her. Lisa did not come home that night. I waited, staring at the clock as the hours crawled by. My mind replaying our argument like a broken record. Midnight turned into 1 a.m. Then 2, I tried calling her. But each attempt went straight to voicemail. My anger, which had burned hot earlier, began to simmer into something colder, something darker. The 3 a.m. I gave up. I went to bed, lying stiff on my side of the mattress. The empty space beside me a stark reminder of just how far apart we'd grown. By the time I woke up, the house was still empty. Lisa had not even bothered to call or text. And the silence was deafening. I sat at the kitchen table with my cold coffee, staring at the note I'd found in her car. Friday 8 p.m. Same place. It was Friday now. I was not proud of what I decided to do next. Some part of me knew I was crossing a line, but the larger part of me, the part that felt betrayed, angry and desperate, did not care. If Lisa was not going to tell me the truth, I'd find it myself. Her laptop was in the living room, perched on the coffee table, where she always left it. I hesitated for only a moment before opening it. Her password was easy to guess: our anniversary. For a split second, that detail hit me like a knife in the gut. She used our anniversary to guard her secrets. Her email was open. And at first, I did not see anything unusual. But then I spotted a folder labeled work stuff. It was not the name itself that stood out. It was the fact that it had been updated yesterday. I clicked it. Inside, there were only a few emails, but one immediately caught my eye. The subject line read, "CA not wait to see you." My heart pounded as I opened it. The email was from someone named David. A name I'd never heard her mention before. Friday night. Same place. Usual time. Miss you already? I stared at the screen, my chest tightening. The words were intimate, casual in a way that only came from familiarity. There was no ambiguity. Lisa was not just sneaking around. She was involved with someone. The room spun as I scrolled through more of their emails. Each one confirming what I already knew. They talked about meeting at hotels, restaurants, places I'd never even heard of. David was married too. One email mentioned his wife by name Emma, and how he was so close to ending things with her. I did not realize I was shaking until I dropped the laptop onto the coffee table. My hands were cold. My throat dry. And my mind raced with questions I could not answer. Who was this David? How long had this been going on? And why did Lisa stay with me if she had him? My phone buzzed, snapping me out of my daze. It was Lisa. "Hey," she said when I answered, her voice casual, as if she had not just disappeared for an entire night. "Where are you?" I asked, my voice hoarse out. She replied I needed some air. "Do not wait up for me tonight. I'll probably stay with Megan." Megan again with Megan. The audacity of her lie was almost laughable. I did not respond. And she sighed, "Ryan, do not be like this. We'll talk later." "Okay." She hung up before I could say anything else. I stared at the phone, my grip tightening until my knuckles turned white. Lisa was lying to my face. And she did not even have the decency to pretend she was not. But now I had something she did not know. I had the emails, the proof. And tonight at 8 p.m., I was going to the same place to be by the time 8 p.m. rolled around. My nerves felt like live wires. The drive to the restaurant, the one mentioned in David's emails, was a blur. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles ached. The place was tucked away in a quiet corner of town. A cozy, dimly lit spot I'd never heard Lisa mention before. I parked across the street, cutting the engine, but leaving my car in the shadows. My heart pounded as I stared at the entrance, wondering if this was a mistake. But then I saw her. Lisa. She stepped out of a cab, her hair perfectly styled, wearing a dress I had not seen in years. A sleek black number that hugged her frame in all the ways that used to leave me breathless. My breath caught in my throat as I watched her walk inside, her heels clicking against the pavement like a countdown to something inevitable. And then came David. He arrived minutes later, stepping out of a silver sedan. He was tall, well-dressed, and annoyingly confident. The kind of man who looked like he knew exactly what he wanted and how to get it. He glanced around the street briefly, his posture casual but purposeful, before heading inside. For a moment I just sat there, frozen, seeing them together. Two people who built this world of lies right under my nose was like a punch to the gut. But I did not come here to sit in the dark. I grabbed my phone, stepping out of the car and crossing the street. My pulse hammered in my ears as I pushed through the restaurant doors, scanning the room. It was busy, filled with couples and groups chatting over wine and candlelight. But I only had eyes for one table. There they were. Lisa and David sat in a corner booth, their heads close together, their voices low. She laughed at something he said. A soft, genuine laugh that I had not heard in months. My stomach churned. I walked straight up to their table. Neither of them noticed me at first. Lisa's attention was entirely on David. But when I stopped in front of them, she finally looked up. Her face went pale. "Ryan," she stammered, her voice shaky. David turned to me, his brow furrowing in confusion. "Who's this?" he asked, his tone cautious. "Her husband," I said flatly, my eyes locked on Lisa. "Mind if I join you?" Lisa's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. She looked completely unprepared, like a child caught sneaking candy from the jar. David, on the other hand, sat back in his chair, his expression shifting to something resembling smug defiance. "Look," he said, raising his hands. "I do not know what this is. But shut up," I snapped, cutting him off. My eyes never left Lisa. "Start talking. Now, Ryan, I can explain," she blurted, her voice trembling. "This is not what it looks like." I laughed bitterly, pulling my phone from my pocket and holding it up. "You mean it's not you two meeting here every week? Not you emailing him about your little rendezvous? Not you betraying everything we've built?" Her eyes widened as she realized what I meant. "You went through my email?" she hissed, her voice low but venomous. "You lie to my face." I shot back. "Do not try to make me the villain here." David shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Maybe we should." I said. "Shut up," I snapped, my gaze slicing to him like a blade. "You do not get to talk. You've got a wife, right? Emma. Is not it? Does she know where you are tonight?" That shut him up. Lisa's hands trembled as she reached for her glass of wine. Taking a shaky sip. "Ryan, please," she pleaded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can we not do this here?" "Why not?" I said, my voice rising. "You've been doing this here for God knows how long. What's one more scene?" "Huh." The restaurant was starting to go quiet now. Nearby tables turning their heads toward us. Lisa's face burned red. Her carefully constructed facade crumbling under the weight of my words. David stood abruptly, tossing a few bills on the table. "I think it's best if I leave," he muttered, shooting Lisa a glance before walking out without another word. "Coward!" Lisa stared after him. Her face, a mix of anger and humiliation. "Ryan, can we please go somewhere private?" I leaned in, my voice low and sharp. "Private, like the life you've been living behind my back." I straightened, stepping back from the table. "You do not get to dictate this anymore, Lisa. Not after this." Her eyes filled with tears, but I did not care. Not anymore. Without another word, I turned and walked out of the restaurant, leaving her sitting there in the wreckage of her lies. For the first time, I was not the one chasing after her. When I walked out of that restaurant, the cold night air hit me like a slap. My fists were clenched, my chest tight, but beneath the anger was something worse. The hollow ache of betrayal. I sat in my car for a while, staring blankly at the dashboard, trying to process what had just happened. Lisa had been cheating on me. There was no more room for doubt, no more excuses I could make for her. I had seen it with my own eyes, heard her stammered lies, and watched the truth unfold in real time. I drove home on autopilot, the streets blurring past me. By the time I walked through the front door, the weight of it all hit me like a freight train. The house felt different, emptier, colder. Every piece of furniture, every photo on the wall, every little reminder of the life we'd built together suddenly felt tainted. I poured myself a drink, something strong, and sank into the couch. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. It was Lisa. Lisa. Ryan, I'm coming home. Please, we need to talk. I stared at the screen, debating whether to reply. Part of me wanted to ignore her, to let her stew in the mess she'd created. But another part of me, one I was not proud of, wanted answers. Me do not bother. There's nothing left to say. Her response came almost immediately. Lisa, please, I'll explain everything. It's not what you think. I laughed bitterly at the words. It was not what I thought. I had seen her with my own eyes, sitting across from David, laughing, sharing secrets, building a world where I did not exist. A knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts. I set the glass down, my pulse quickening as I stood. I was not ready to face her again, not so soon. But I knew she would not give me a choice. When I opened the door, Lisa stood there, her face pale, her eyes rimmed red from crying. She clutched her purse like it was a lifeline, her usual confidence completely gone. Ryan, she began, her voice trembling, can I come in? I did not move at first, staring at her in silence. Part of me wanted to slam the door in her face, but curiosity, or maybe something darker, won out. I stepped aside, letting her in. She stood awkwardly in the middle of the living room, glancing around like she did not recognize the space she'd called home for years. Finally, she turned to me, her hands shaking. Ryan, she started. But the words seemed to catch in her throat. Save it, I said coldly, crossing my arms. I want the truth, Lisa. All of it. No more lies, no more excuses. Just tell me how long this has been going on. Her eyes filled with tears, but I did not feel sympathy. Not anymore. A few months, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. It was not supposed to happen. I never meant for it to get this far. I laughed, the sound bitter and hollow. That's rich. A few months of sneaking around, and you never meant for it to happen. Do you even hear yourself? She flinched, but did not argue. I was unhappy, Ryan, she said finally, her voice trembling. We were distant. And I felt invisible. David made me feel seen. I stared at her. Disbelief and anger swirling inside me. Unhappy, you felt invisible. And instead of talking to me, you ran to someone else. How does that make sense, Lisa? I did not know how to fix us. She cried, tears streaming down her face now. I was scared, okay, scared that we'd already fallen apart, and that nothing I did would bring us back. David was just easy. The word easy made my stomach churn. That's what I was to her. Difficult, a problem to avoid instead of a partner to fight for. Do you even regret it? I asked, my voice quieter now, almost dangerous. Her silence spoke volumes. I shook my head, stepping back. That's all I needed to know. Ryan, please, she pleaded, taking a step toward me. I love you. I messed up. But I love you. We can fix this. I held up a hand, stopping her. Do not. I said, my voice firm, you do not get to stand here and talk about love. Not after what you've done. I needed a partner, Lisa, someone who would fight for us. Instead, you chose to fight for someone else? Her sobs filled the room. But I felt nothing. Or maybe I felt too much. Either way, I could not look at her anymore. Get out, I said, my voice cold and final. She froze, her tear-streaked face crumpling. Ryan, get out. She hesitated, her lips trembling. But finally she nodded, grabbing her purse. She walked to the door. Before stepping outside, she turned to look at me one last time. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice breaking. I did not respond. Could not. I stood there in silence as she closed the door behind her, leaving me alone in the wreckage of what once was. For the first time in years, I felt the full weight of the truth. This was not just the end of our relationship. It was the end of who I thought Lisa was and who I thought we were. The hours after Lisa left felt like days. Our house was no longer a home. Every corner was filled with shadows of what once was. Reminders of a life that felt like a cruel joke now. Her perfume still lingered in the air. A ghostly presence that I could not escape. I sat at the dining table, the crumpled note from her car, and the printed emails from David spread out in front of me. It was like staring at evidence in a courtroom, except I was both the judge and the condemned. Her words from earlier echoed in my head. I was unhappy. Unhappy? Was I really that blind? Had I missed the signs, the cracks in the foundation? Or was this just her excuse to justify what she'd done? By midnight, I could not sit still anymore. The silence was suffocating, and my thoughts were eating me alive. I grabbed my coat and walked out the door, the cold air biting at my face as I headed for my car. I did not have a destination in mind, but my hands seemed to know where to go. Within minutes, I found myself parked outside of Megan S.'s house, Lisa S.'s so-called best friend. I hesitated for a moment, debating whether to knock. Megan had always seemed decent enough, but now I could not shake the feeling that she might have known more than she let on. If Lisa had been using her as a cover, surely Megan had noticed something. Before I could talk myself out of it, I stepped out of the car and walked up to the door, my breath visible in the icy air. I knocked twice, and after a moment the door opened. Megan stood there in sweatpants and a hoodie. Her hair pulled back into a messy bun. She looked surprised to see me, her brow furrowing. "Ryan, what's going on? Is everything okay?" "No," I said bluntly. "Can I come in?" She hesitated but stepped aside, motioning for me to enter. The warmth of the house was a stark contrast to the cold turmoil inside me. "What's this about?" Megan asked, crossing her arms as she leaned against the kitchen counter. "I need to know something," I said, meeting her eyes. "How much do you know about Lisa and David?" Her reaction was immediate. Her eyes widened, and her face paled, like I just hit a nerve. "David?" she repeated, her voice shaky. "Do not play dumb," I snapped. "I know about the emails. I know about their meetups. And I know Lisa S. been using you as an alibi." Megan swallowed hard, looking down at the floor. For a moment, I thought she might deny it. But then she sighed, running a hand through her hair. "I did not know it was that bad," she admitted quietly. "I knew she was spending time with someone. But I did not know his name. She told me she was just venting, that it was not serious." "Not serious?" I said, my voice rising. "She has been sneaking around for months, lying to my face. And you just let her." Megan flinched at my tone. "What was I supposed to do, Ryan?" she asked my friend. I did not know how far it had gone. I thought she cut herself off, shaking her head. I thought she'd snap out of it before it got out of hand. I let out a bitter laugh. It's way out of hand. Megan looked genuinely guilty. But it was not enough. Nothing she said could change the fact that she'd enabled Lisa's betrayal, whether intentionally or not. She's been saying she's unhappy. I said, more to myself than to Megan, that I made her feel invisible. Megan hesitated. Like she was choosing her next words carefully. "Lisa's been off for a while," she said finally. She did not talk about it much. But I could tell she was struggling with something. "I do not think this was just about you, Ryan. I think she's been unhappy with herself for a long time." Her words hit me like a gut punch. It was not the answer I wanted. But it felt closer to the truth than anything Lisa had said. Why did not she just tell me? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Why did she have to do this? Megan shook her head. I do not know. Maybe she was scared. Maybe she did not know how to ask for help. Or maybe she hesitated. Maybe she did not think you'd forgive her. Forgive her. The word tasted bitter on my tongue. Could I forgive her? I stood up, the weight of everything pressing down on me. Thanks for being honest, Megan, I said stiffly, heading for the door. Ryan, she called after me. Her voice soft. I'm sorry. For what it's worth. I think Lisa does love you. She just got lost. Lost. I did not respond. I walked out into the cold night, the weight of Megan's words settling deep into my chest. Lisa might have been lost, but she'd taken me down with her. And now I was not sure either of us could find our way back. The next morning, I woke up to find Lisa's things gone. Her toothbrush, her favorite pair of shoes by the door, the throw blanket she always curled up with on the couch. It was like she had vanished in the night. For a split second, I felt relief. The house was quieter without her, less charged with tension. But that relief was short-lived, replaced by the raw ache of abandonment. No matter how much anger I felt toward her, I had not expected her to just leave. On the kitchen counter was a note written in her rushed handwriting. Ryan, I need time to think. I'm staying at a hotel for now. Please do not call me. I'll reach out when I'm ready to talk. Lisa, my first instinct was to crumple the note and throw it in the trash. But I did not. Instead, I left it there. A small reminder of the chaos she had left behind. I spent the day cleaning the house, as if scrubbing the surfaces could erase the memories. Every time I passed the bedroom, I felt a pang of bitterness. The closet door was slightly ajar, revealing the empty hangers where her clothes had been. It was like staring at a wound that would not stop bleeding. By the evening, I could not take it anymore. I needed air, space, distance. I grabbed my keys and drove aimlessly for hours. The city lights blurring past me. Eventually, I found myself at a park we used to visit when we were first dating. The place had not changed. The old bench we'd sat on during countless summer evenings was still there. Worn and weathered but standing. I sat down, staring at the frozen pond in the distance. I thought about Lisa's laugh, the way she used to light up when she talked about her dreams. I thought about how happy we'd been, how sure I was that we could weather anything life threw at us. And then I thought about David, his smug face across the table, the emails, the lies, the betrayal. How had we fallen so far? My phone buzzed in my pocket, pulling me from my thoughts. For a moment I thought it might be Lisa, breaking her own rule and reaching out. But it was not her. It was an email from Emma, David's wife. I froze, staring at the screen. My thumb hovered over the notification before I finally tapped it, opening the message. Subject: we need to talk. Ryan, you do not know me, but I think you know my husband. I found your email in the thread he has been hiding, and I've put the pieces together. I think you deserve to know everything about him, about Lisa, and about how long this has been going on. If you want to talk, let me know. I'll be waiting. Her phone number was at the bottom of the email. I leaned back on the bench, the cold biting through my jacket. My heart pounded in my chest as I stared at the screen, rereading the message. Emma, David's wife, the woman who was living a parallel nightmare to mine. She had answers. Answers Lisa would never willingly give me. I did not think I just dialed. The phone rang twice before a soft, hesitant voice answered. Hello, Emma? I said, my voice shaky. Yes, she replied. Is this Ryan? Yeah, I said, exhaling sharply. It's me. There was a pause, and I could hear her breathing on the other end. I was not sure you'd call, she admitted. But I'm glad you did. Let us skip the small talk, I said, my anger and frustration bubbling to the surface. What do you know? Emma hesitated, and then her voice turned cold and steady. I know they've been seeing each other for almost 6 months. I know they've been meeting in hotels, lying to both of us. And I know that David has no intention of stopping, no matter what he tells you or Lisa. Her words hit like a sledgehammer. 6 months, half a year of lies, deceit, and betrayal. Why are you telling me this? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Because I'm done being in the dark, she said. And I figured you'd want to know too. David thinks he can keep living this double life, but I would not let him. I deserve better. You deserve better. I clenched my jaw, her words sinking in. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was not alone in this mess. What are you going to do? I asked her. I do not know yet, Emma admitted, but I would not sit here and let him think he won. And you should not either. Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. She was right. I could not just sit here, drowning in my anger and grief. If Lisa had chosen this path, then she could face the consequences. Thank you, I said finally, for reaching out. I hope you find some peace in this. Emma said softly, we both deserve that, at least when the call ended. I stared at the frozen pond, my breath visible in the cold air. Something inside me shifted, a quiet resolve replacing the swirling chaos. Lisa and I might not have a future anymore, but I'd be damned if I let her destroy me. The next few days passed in a strange, tense limbo. Lisa did not call and I did not reach out. Her absence was both a relief and a reminder of the mess she'd left behind. Every corner of the house felt haunted by her. A place where love had once lived, but now only shadows remained. The conversation with Emma lingered in my mind. 6 months, that number rang like a bell in my head, each toll echoing with the weight of betrayal. Lisa had not just made a mistake or acted out of impulse. This was calculated, sustained. And yet a small, traitorous part of me still wanted to understand why. Not to excuse her, but to finally close the door on the questions that kept me awake at night. That opportunity came sooner than I expected. It was late one evening when my phone buzzed on the coffee table. Lisa's name lit up the screen, and for a moment, I just stared at it. My first instinct was to let it ring, but curiosity, or maybe some lingering attachment, got the better of me. I picked up. Lisa, Ryan, she said, her voice soft but tense. I need to talk to you. Can I come over? I hesitated. Why now? She exhaled shakily. I need to explain. Please. There was a desperation in her tone that I had not heard before. Against my better judgment, I relented. Fine. 20 minutes later, she walked through the door. Her face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed as if she had not slept in days. She wore a plain hoodie and jeans, a far cry from the polished image she usually presented. Thanks for letting me come, she said, standing awkwardly in the doorway, across my arms, keeping my distance. Say what you came to say. She flinched at my tone but nodded. She sat on the edge of the couch, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. I do not even know where to start, she admitted, her voice trembling. I know I hurt you, Ryan. I know I've destroyed everything. And I do not deserve your forgiveness. You rewrite? I said flatly. You do not. Tears welled in her eyes. But I did not move. She deserved to feel this, every ounce of it. I did not mean for any of this to happen, she continued, her voice cracking. I was lonely, Ryan. I felt like we were not us anymore. I was scared to talk to you because I thought you'd just dismiss me. I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. So instead of talking to me, you found comfort in someone else? That's your excuse. It's not an excuse, she said, her voice rising. It's the truth. I did not plan this. David was, he was just there and I let it happen. But it was never about not loving you. I do love you, Ryan. I swear I do. Her words sounded hollow, like she was trying to convince herself more than me. Love, I said, my voice icy. You call this love, sneaking around, lying to my face, throwing everything we've built away for him. That's not love, Lisa. That's selfishness. She broke down, sobbing into her hands. But I did not move to comfort her. For years I had been the one to fix things, to smooth over the rough edges, to make sure we stayed on track. This time, it was not my job. I ended it. She choked out between sobs. With David, it's over. The words hung in the air. But they did not bring the relief she seemed to expect. Good, I said coldly. But that does not change what you did. I know, she whispered. But I want to make it right. I want to try, Ryan. Please. Let me try. I stared at her. The woman I had once loved more than anything. Now a broken stranger sitting in front of me. Part of me wanted to believe her, to cling to the hope that we could rebuild. But another part of me, the part that had seen the emails, confronted her lies, and spoken to Emma, knew the truth. This was not something that could be fixed. I do not think you get it. I said finally, my voice steady, but cold. It's not just about what you did with David. It's about who you became to do it. The lies, the manipulation, the way you looked me in the eye and pretended everything was fine. That's not something I can forgive. She looked up at me, her tear-streaked face crumbling. So what are you saying? I'm saying it's over, Lisa. I said the words heavy, but certain I'm done. Her sobs grew louder. But I stood firm. This was not about punishing her. It was about finally letting go of the weight she'd placed on me. I'll give you some time to sort out your things, I said, standing. But I want you out by the end of the week. She did not respond, just curled into herself on the couch, her cries echoing in the empty room. As I walked upstairs to the bedroom, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Anger, sadness, relief. But above all, I felt free for the first time in months. The weight of Lisa's betrayal was not crushing me anymore. It was time to start over without her. The next morning, Lisa was gone. Her car was not in the driveway. Her shoes were no longer by the door. And the half-empty bottle of perfume on the bathroom counter had disappeared. The only trace of her presence was the faint indentation on the couch where she'd cried the night before. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the empty coffee mug she'd left behind. For years that mug had been part of my mornings. Lisa sipping her coffee while scrolling through her phone, laughing at something silly she'd found online. Now it was just another ghost in a house full of them. The silence in the house was suffocating. For all her flaws, Lisa had been the center of my world for so long that I did not know what to do with myself without her there. I was not angry anymore. Not in the burning, blinding way I had been. What I felt now was colder, heavier, a deep, aching sadness for what could have been. But I could not dwell on that. Not if I wanted to move forward. I spent the day sorting through the mess she'd left behind. The closet still held a few forgotten sweaters. The bathroom, a stray hair tie, her scent lingered faintly on the bed linens. And for a moment, I considered changing them. But I could not bring myself to do it just yet. As I cleaned, my phone buzzed on the counter. It was Emma. Emma. How are you holding up? For a moment, I did not know how to respond. I'd only spoken to Emma once. But there was an odd comfort in knowing that someone else understood exactly what I was going through. Me, I'm managing. She's gone now. What about you? Her reply came quickly. Emma, David's still in denial. Keeps saying he loves me and wants to work things out. But I see not even look at him. I'm staying with my sister for now. It's hard. But better than staying with him. I stared at her message, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Finally I typed, I get that Lisa said the same thing about wanting to fix things. But how do you fix something when the foundation's already gone? Emma did not reply for a few minutes. When she did, her words were simple but hit harder than I expected. Emma, you do not. You rebuild something new. Without them, her message stuck with me for the rest of the day. Rebuild something new. It sounded so simple. But standing in the ruins of my life, it felt impossible. That night, I went for a long drive. The streets quiet and empty under the cold glow of street lights. I found myself at the park again, sitting on the same bench as before. The pond was still frozen, the air biting at my skin. But I did not care. I thought about Lisa, about the life we'd built together. I thought about how easy it had been to ignore the cracks, to convince myself that everything was fine even as the walls crumbled around us. And then I thought about Emma's words, rebuild something new. I pulled out my phone, staring at Lisa's name in my contacts. For a moment, I considered deleting it, erasing her from my life entirely. But I did not. Instead, I scrolled to the bottom of the screen and hit block. It was not about hating her or pretending she'd never existed. It was about taking the first step toward rebuilding without her. For the first time in weeks, I felt a small flicker of hope. It was faint, barely there. But it was enough to remind me that life did not end with Lisa's betrayal. It began with letting her go. The days turned into weeks, and the weight of Lisa's absence slowly began to shift. At first, the silence in the house was unbearable. a constant reminder of everything I'd lost. But over time, it started to feel less like a void and more like a blank canvas, a space waiting to be filled with something new. I threw myself into work, into rebuilding routines that did not revolve around Lisa. I replaced the bed linens, rearranged the living room, even painted the walls of the bedroom a color she would have hated. It was cathartic in a strange way, reclaiming the space we'd shared and making it my own. But no matter how much I moved forward, the memories lingered. Every so often, I'd catch myself reaching for my phone to text her about something trivial, only to stop and remember that she was not part of my life anymore. It was like losing a limb, phantom pains in places where she used to exist. Emma and I stayed in touch. Our messages were infrequent but meaningful. A lifeline for both of us as we navigated the wreckage of our respective relationships. She told me David had moved out, that she'd filed for divorce. Her decisiveness was both inspiring and daunting. One evening, as I was cleaning out the garage, I found an old box of photos. Most of them were from the early years of our marriage, Lisa and me at the beach at family gatherings, laughing at some inside joke only we understood. I sat there on the cold cement floor, flipping through image after image. And for the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to feel the full weight of my grief. We had not always been broken. Once we'd been happy. Once we'd been enough. The tears came without warning, hot and unrelenting. I did not try to stop them. For too long, I'd buried my pain under layers of anger and bitterness. But now it demanded to be felt. When the storm passed, I wiped my face and stared at the scattered photos. Slowly, I picked them up and placed them back in the box, sealing it shut. I was not ready to throw them away, not yet. But I also was not ready to keep them in the house. I carried the box to the attic, placing it in a far corner where it could collect dust. It was not about forgetting, it was about creating distance, about letting the memories exist without letting them define me. That night, I got another email from Emma. Emma, how are you holding up? Her messages always seemed to come at just the right time. Me better. Slowly. How about you? Her reply was quick. Emma, same. Some days are harder than others. But I think I'm finally starting to feel lighter. Like I can breathe again. I stared at her message for a long time before typing back. Me, it is strange. Is not it? How someone can destroy you. And yet the world keeps moving like nothing happened. Emma, yeah, but maybe that's a good thing. It forces us to move with it. I smiled faintly at her words. She was right. The world did not stop for Lisa, or for me, or for the shattered pieces of our marriage. Kept turning, dragging me forward whether I liked it or not. The next morning, I woke up early and went for a run. Something I had not done in years. The air was crisp. The sun just starting to rise. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt okay, not happy, not whole, but okay. As I ran through the quiet streets, I realized something important. My life with Lisa was an unfinished chapter. A story that had ended abruptly and painfully. But it was not the whole book. There were still chapters left to write. And for the first time, I was ready to start. It was on a quiet Sunday morning. 2 months after Lisa had walked out of my life, that the phone call came. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a fresh cup of coffee. My laptop opened to a list of local hiking trails I'd been meaning to explore. The house was starting to feel like mine again. No longer a shared space haunted by memories, but a refuge I was reclaiming bit by bit. The number on the screen was not one I recognized. But something about it made me pause. After a moment's hesitation, I picked up. Hello, Ryan, her voice hit me like a shockwave. I had not heard it in weeks. And yet I recognized it instantly. Lisa, I stayed silent, gripping the phone tighter. Ryan, are you there? She asked, her tone uncertain. What do you want, Lisa? I said, my voice sharper than I intended. There was a long pause, and then she sighed. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from. But I needed to talk to you. I leaned back in my chair, already weary of whatever this conversation was going to be about. What about everything? she said quietly. I've been doing a lot of thinking. And I realized I see not move forward until I've made things right, or at least tried to. Her words hung in the air. And for a moment, I did not know how to respond. Part of me wanted to hang up, to shut the door on her, and never look back. But another part of me, the part that still felt the weight of unanswered questions, could not ignore her. Fine, I said, finally talk. She took a shaky breath. I know I hurt you. I know I destroyed everything we had. And there's nothing I can say to make up for it. But I need you to understand why. I repeated, my voice tinged with disbelief. Lisa, I do not care why you made your choices. You lied, you cheated, and you threw us away. That's all there is to it. It's not that simple, she said, her voice breaking. I was lost, Ryan. I did not know who I was anymore. I felt like I was drowning. And instead of reaching for you, I ran. I thought David was the answer, but he was not. He was just an escape. Her words struck a nerve, stirring something deep inside me that I did not want to face. Anger, sadness, the faint, lingering echo of love. And now what? I asked, my tone harsh. You want me to feel sorry for you, to forgive you, because that's not going to happen. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she said quickly. I know I do not deserve it. I wanted to tell you that I'm sorry for everything, for the lies, the betrayal, for not being the person you needed me to be. I'm sorry. Her apology felt genuine, but it did not bring the closure I thought it might. Instead, it left me feeling hollow, like there was still a piece of the puzzle missing. What do you want from me, Lisa? I asked, my voice quieter now. I do not know, she admitted. Maybe nothing. Maybe just the chance to say I'm sorry. And to know that you're okay. Her words lingered, filling the silence between us. I'm okay, I said finally, my voice steady, or at least I'm getting there. But that's not because of you. It's because I finally stopped waiting for you to come back. Lisa did not respond right away. But when she did, her voice was soft and full of regret. I understand. And I'm glad you're finding your way. For the first time in months, I felt a strange sense of peace. Not because I forgave her, but because I no longer needed to. I hope you find your way too. Lisa, I said, surprising even myself with the words. Thank you, she whispered. Goodbye, Ryan. Goodbye. The call ended. And I set the phone down on the table, staring at it for a long moment. I did not feel angry or sad. I did not feel relief or closure either. What I felt was something different, something lighter. Lisa's chapter in my life was finally truly over. And now I could focus on the chapter still waiting to be written. The weeks after Lisa's call felt different. Not easier exactly, but lighter, like a weight I had not even realized I was carrying had been lifted. Her apology, while far too late to mend anything, had given me the one thing I did not know I needed, a sense of finality. For the first time in months, I started to truly move forward. It began with small things. I signed up for a cooking class, something Lisa and I had always talked about but never did. I started running again, each mile clearing my mind and strengthening my resolve. I reached out to old friends, people I'd neglected in the whirlwind of marriage and then the chaos of its collapse. But the biggest change came one crisp Saturday morning. I was at the local farmer's market, wandering through rows of fresh produce and handmade crafts. When a voice called my name, Ryan, I turned to see a familiar face, Emma. She stood there, a small bag of apples in her hand, bundled up against the chilly air. For a moment, neither of us spoke, caught off guard by the chance meeting. Emma, I said finally, a small smile tugging at my lips. Hey, she replied, her own smile cautious but genuine. We fell into an easy conversation, catching up on how we both been. She told me she was officially divorced now, living in a small apartment across town and focusing on her career. I told her about the cooking class, the runs, and the slow but steady process of rebuilding my life. It sounds like you're doing well, she said, her smile growing warmer. I'm trying, I admitted. What about you? Emma hesitated, then nodded. It's been hard. But yeah, I'm getting there. We talked for a while longer. and as the conversation flowed, I realized how comfortable it felt. Emma was not just someone who understood what I'd been through. She was someone who'd lived it, survived it, and come out stronger on the other side. When the market started to wind down, we exchanged numbers. It was not a romantic gesture. Not yet, but it felt like a step towards something. Friendship, maybe, or something more if time and healing allowed. As I walked back to my car, I felt a sense of hope I had not felt in a long time. Life was not perfect. It was messy, unpredictable, and full of scars from the past. But for the first time, I felt ready to embrace it. That night, I sat on the couch with a glass of wine, scrolling through photos of hiking trails I wanted to explore. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "Emma, thanks for the chat today. It was good to see you." I smiled, typing back a quick reply. "Me, it was good to see you too. Let us do it again sometime." As I set the phone down, I glanced at the empty spot on the couch where Lisa's favorite blanket used to be. It no longer felt like a reminder of what was lost. Instead, it felt like an invitation, an open space waiting to be filled with something new. Lisa's chapter in my life had closed. And now, for the first time, I was ready to write the next one.